What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. What we have to talk about today, well, first off, we have a lot to discuss. We need to address the $1,400 stimulus checks. We need to address the $1.9 trillion stimulus package. We need to talk a little bit about SSI and SSDI. There's a new rent and mortgage forgiveness proposal out there. I want to address this as well. This is huge because this would technically mean free rent and free mortgage for the entirety of this pandemic, and I'll address that in a minute. And then we have to talk about the power of the Progressive Caucus. And this is big, and this is going to change the landscape of exactly how bills are introduced, how they're passed, and what we see turned into actual law. So we're going to address all that in today's video. First off, just want to wish you a very happy Sunday morning. Thanks for joining me, but let's get right into it. First, currently, the Biden administration is planning a trip across the country in various cities to celebrate the $1.9 trillion stimulus package. President Biden was very critical of former President Barack Obama, saying it was a mistake for not going around and celebrating with the American people when he passed his $800 billion stimulus package back in 2008-2009. So, the Biden administration is not going to make this mistake. So I believe it's this week, the Biden administration will travel to cities like Las Vegas. They're going to go to, I believe, Denver and Atlanta. Also, Jill Biden and President Biden, I believe, are going to be in, talk about this in Washington, D.C., and then I believe in Burlington as well. So that's kind of where they're going to be. But they want to just celebrate with the American people that hopefully by the time they start these celebrations, the American people, the majority of them, will already have their $1,400 stimulus check. They're going to be excited about their $300 per week in unemployment benefits not going away. And maybe he'll touch on the child tax credit. We just don't know. And I'll address that in a minute as well. But while the Biden administration is working on that, we know the American people are just awaiting their $1,400 stimulus checks. A lot of you have messaged me saying that yes, you received your check, it's already in your account, and you can already spend it. That is good news. Now, many are still waiting to receive their stimulus checks in their bank accounts. A lot of bank accounts are currently showing pending, and even if you go to the irs.gov website, you can put in your social security number, your date of birth, your current residence, and then the zip code. I think those are the 4 questions they ask, and then it will pop up and show you when your payment will be sent, or if it has already been sent, and even to what bank account if it's direct deposit. So if you haven't done that, maybe go to irs.gov, click the Get My Payment tool. It's going to be the upper left button, and then click that button, and then you can go and input all your information. And it will tell you when your payment will be sent. Maybe it's currently pending. Currently, just go and do that, and then you'll have all your answers, or at least you should. So, and if it shows that, okay, there's no information right now, don't worry. Don't worry. This bill was passed on Thursday. Okay, that was 4 days ago, or technically 3 days ago because today's Sunday. So it was, Saturday, Friday, Thursday, right? 3 days. So don't worry about it. It's only been 3 days. Don't worry. We were expecting the stimulus checks to be sent out at the end of this coming week, not already. So if you haven't received any information, you haven't received your stimulus check, don't worry yet, okay? And I know a lot of people are worried, are like, okay, am I going to get it? I don't know. And they're struggling with it, but just understand it takes time. The Treasury sends out these payments in batches. So maybe you're not part of the first round. That's perfectly fine. Maybe you'll be part of the second round or third round. You will get your stimulus check. Hopefully it comes quickly. Just you have to stay patient. We also know that a team of people are currently working on the child tax credit monthly advances. They're trying to get this out as quickly as possible, but the problem is they have to implement the system. Right now, they're saying the difficult part is they have to put the system in place first and then make sure it works. Some experts say this will most likely take about 2 months to do. We are in the middle of March, so we got March, we got April, then May, right? So let's say beginning of May, this system is ready to go. They want to put this in place before June because the payments are supposed to go out in the 1st of July. Well, if the system and this portal, this website is not up by June, the American people can't go to the website, put in their information, opt either in for monthly payments or opt out and just collect the tax advance at the end of the year. So that's currently what we are hearing. That's currently what we expect. But as I know more there, I promise I will fill you in on all those updates. And the big news recently has been from progressives still fighting for what they believe the American people need. What we've been hearing is the Biden administration didn't pass the $1.9 trillion stimulus package because the Biden administration wanted that. That is not what was happening. According to reports are indicating that lawmakers passed this $1.9 trillion stimulus package because the American people wanted it. The American people said this was a priority. The American people said these were popular pieces of legislation. So, according to all reports right now, the $1.9 trillion stimulus package was crafted by taking popular pieces of legislation that the American people wanted, putting them together, and that was the $1.9 trillion stimulus bill. It had nothing to do with what Democrats or Republicans wanted. Yes, there were obviously some pieces in this bill that were mainly geared towards Democrats. I get it. But that's, according to many reports, that is not the reason or the how this bill ultimately got put together. So, here's what we know. We could see more popular bills pass through Congress very soon. As to what's going to be in them, currently, the House has already passed 2 bills on gun control. They've already passed a bill for unions called the PRO Act, and they have many plans to pass more pieces of legislation that the majority of the American people want. So, if you have a certain proposal that you really like, that somebody has proposed either currently or in the past, what experts are saying is all you have to do is call your representative, let them know, hey, I really like this idea. This is something that I completely stand behind. This is something that I approve. And right now, lawmakers are pretty much at a high. They've just passed what many are saying the most pivotal piece of legislation in decades. This is going to be huge. So why they're up at this high, they're sitting on cloud 9. The experts are saying call your representative, let them know, hey, I really like this. I don't like that, but I really like these pieces. We should pass these. Let's get a push for that. And we could see more and more people do this. We could see more and more lawmakers start to listen to their constituents. That's kind of what we're here for, right? Now, experts do say that the Progressive Caucus has more power now than ever before in history. They say that moderate Democrats in the Senate tried to water down the $1.9 trillion stimulus bill, but they were told that progressives in the House would not support it. This is one of the reasons why the $1,400 stimulus checks are still going out to as many people as they are. Democrats, or at least moderate Democrats in the Senate, wanted to water this down, wanted to bring the income limits down even more, and actually wanted to decrease the $1,400 stimulus checks. President Biden was 100% against that, but progressives were against lowering the income limitations even further. So that's kind of where we got stuck with what we have. This is also why unemployment benefits were not cut down to just 16 weeks as opposed to 25. This is also why the child tax credits will be phased out as they are, as opposed to phasing out as quickly as the $1,400 stimulus check payments. And this is also why more money went to schools as opposed to just putting that money into state and local government funding or putting that money into other priorities. That money went to schools. This, I guess, was thanks to progressives. If moderate Democrats would have gotten their way, a lot of currently what we see in the bill would just been stripped. We wouldn't have seen it. It would have just been gone. And so that's what they're saying is this was a big move by progressives. But now progressives move to their next key priorities, which are a $15 minimum wage, but many say that we will most likely be closer to about $12 per hour. They also want some type of Social Security reform. They want to see what President Biden proposed or promised in his campaign of $200 per month. They would like to see something like this actually happen. Currently, experts are saying that they are predicting a cost of living adjustment for Social Security in 2022. They're expecting this to be 3%, which is more than double what it was for 2021. Right now, some are saying that there needs to be something done sooner, and I completely agree. We also hear progressives talking about student loan forgiveness. They also have a new proposal for rent and mortgage forgiveness, which this is another big one. And their big one right now is their push for some form of universal basic income, UBI, or what many people are calling a monthly stimulus check. Now, when it comes to Social Security, I just want to kind of touch on this for a minute because I know a lot of people are saying, hey, President Biden promised this. Why are we not getting back on this? Why isn't this a priority? Well, what we're hearing right now is this is becoming a bigger and bigger priority because currently the Biden administration is seeing how people on Social Security or just pretty much a fixed income are struggling more than others. Now, people on Social Security, I guess, aren't technically put in the same bracket as a low-income individual or household, but they technically are. So what we know is this will become a bigger priority, and this will become a focal point in the upcoming bills. If the next bill is related to China and dealing with 5G, semiconductors, and things like that, then they're not going to talk about some of these progressive priorities. They're just not going to do that. But if the next bill is the infrastructure bill, which some are saying it's going to be anywhere between $3 to $4 trillion, then yes, student loan forgiveness, rent and mortgage forgiveness, Social Security reform, a $15 minimum wage, and some form of universal basic income or a monthly stimulus check all will be included in that. What many experts are currently saying is they anticipate that with the recent push from Democrats and progressives to get people out of poverty, they are saying that progressives are going to push for UBI. They are going to push for this. As for the amount, though, they do not have a number. That is not currently what's being discussed, and they don't care about the number at this point. What they care about is seeing families and individuals getting consistent income month after month after month. This is exactly why the child tax credit is seen as such a huge priority, because this will keep people out of poverty. This will pull about 50% of children out of poverty, and that's currently what Democrats and progressives are fighting for. The key right now is trying to determine if UBI, even at a smaller scale, depending on what they put the income limitations at, depending on how much per month the universal basic income would be, they are trying to figure out right now if this would be enough to impact as many Americans as they would like to make it even worth it. All progressives currently say yes, and there is enough evidence to support and back up their proposals. Right now, we just have to wait and see. And it all depends on what the number is, how many Americans would receive this form of universal basic income, because not everybody would. Just because you live here in the United States does not mean you'd get part of this income. You'd have to be a citizen or somebody with an ITIN number, most likely, and then chances are you have to make under a certain amount of income. That's where you would get some form of universal basic income. As to how this would be paid for, some are saying we would just reduce subsidies, but we will see. What we do know is that progressives want to see monthly stimulus checks until this pandemic is over. They've been very vocal on this. They do not believe that this pandemic is anywhere near being done. They are expecting we will be in this probably for another year. We will most likely have to go through another harsh winter. It will not be as bad as it has been or it recently was, but we could see the numbers spike after the fall. So what we do know is, yes, there might be a fourth stimulus check. There might be a fifth, a sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th. There might be a bunch of more stimulus checks coming your way. But as of right now, that's what's being discussed. Is let's work on getting out the third stimulus check for $1,400. Let's make sure every single person that was supposed to receive the $1,200, the $600, and the $1,400 stimulus checks, they all get their money. And let's see what happens. But there's a lot of people saying that no, we can see what happens, but in the meantime, let's push for that fourth stimulus check. If we see that fourth stimulus check, we could see a monthly stimulus check follow soon after. And the fourth stimulus check would probably just be that initial push to get that monthly recurring stimulus check. So right now, could we see a fourth stimulus check? Yes. We honestly could. Will it be? And the proposal about a year ago was, and even Vice President Kamala Harris, she supported this. She was one of the co-sponsors of this bill, was for a $2,000 per month stimulus check until 3 months after the pandemic is over. Well, the pandemic is still here. American people are still struggling. There's a lot of people still out of work. There's over 20 million people collecting some form of unemployment benefits. So yes, I believe having some form of a universal basic income or a monthly stimulus check is going to be a high priority for progressives. And that's currently what many experts believe as well. As to a $2,000 per month stimulus payment, I don't think this is going to happen. This is probably a little bit too expensive for President Biden, and I don't think he would ever go for it. I do think he would be on board for something around $600 per month, maybe $500, maybe a little bit less, but I do think he would be on board for monthly payments if it was at least under $1,000. Pushing $1,000 might be a little bit more difficult. And one of the reasons why this is a big thing for progressives, and one of the reasons that we've seen a lot of hype around this $1.9 trillion stimulus package, is because of the amount of people lifted out of poverty. That this is one of the reasons why the child tax credits of $3,000 per year or $3,600 depending on your child's age, this is why this is seen as such a huge priority, because it helps out millions and millions of children. There was a lot of children during this pandemic, or so far during the pandemic, that were food insufficient. Didn't have enough food just to eat throughout the day. And people say that is not something we can do here in the United States. When we are supposed to be one of the richest countries in the world, and one of the most powerful countries in the world, how can we not provide for our children? Now, I don't want to get your hopes up and say a fourth stimulus check is coming, but all signs point to progressives having more power right now than ever before. So, if progressives are going to use their power wisely, some say it would be crazy to let progressives or let this opportunity pass by progressives. Why would they let this opportunity pass? And you need to remember, there are 93 progressives in the House. There's one progressive in the Senate, that's Bernie Sanders. Okay, there's 94 total in Congress. Well, 93 progressives in the House amounts for a little bit over 21% of the numbers in the House. So, if all progressives vote a certain way, we can get these bills passed. Okay? But, and again, what we're going to see over the next month, next few weeks at least, but most likely over the next month, possibly 2 months, depending on which bill comes first, whether it's going to be this China package or something for infrastructure. We could see everything be introduced very soon. We could say, again, the House is already working on a lot of these progressive priorities, like I said, gun control, the PRO Act, things like that. But if we see more and more of these proposals popping up, then we will most likely see a push for infrastructure, and all these proposals will most likely be thrown into the infrastructure bill to try to get them to pass through the Senate. Because what we know is a standalone bill passing at this point is very, very difficult to do, especially in a 50-50 split Senate. So, how do we get these passed? We throw these different proposals into the pot of bills, which is going to be President Biden's Build Back Better plan, and then hope that, okay, everybody just kind of forgets about all these little proposals that don't really mean too much, but yet when you factor them into the grand scheme of things, they're huge, but we're just going to sprinkle them in here and hopefully people just miss them, because that's usually what happens. So, currently, experts believe that most of the progressive priorities will be attached to the infrastructure bill, but when that finally gets put together, well, we just don't know. As we know more, I promise I will share more. But the big news just recently is a new proposal from progressives is their bill seeking to cancel rent and mortgage payments during this pandemic. Let's say this pandemic lasts until 2022, right? We're in the third month. So let's say you have an additional 8 months of payments for your rent or your mortgage. Okay. Well, if you have 8 months of payments, let's say for simple math, you pay $1,000 a month. I know that's too much for a lot of people, and that's not enough for many others. Let's say you pay $1,000 a month. Well, if this bill from progressives cancels your rent and mortgage payments for the foreseeable future for the time during this pandemic, that means you would save $8,000. You would not have to pay this back either. This amount would actually go onto the government. the government would have to figure out a way to pay landlords so that the landlord can pay their property taxes, because essentially if the landlord owns property, they don't have to pay the money on that. They don't have to pay their mortgage payment because they are part of the pandemic or mortgage holders. So because of that, everybody pretty much just gets to live rent and mortgage free, which means you get free housing for the entirety of this pandemic. Now, they also are seeking to find or get relief for landlords to help them with this as well. Because even though mortgage forbearance is great, but then you put the burden on the lien holder. But then even though eviction moratorium is great, keeps people in their homes, the issue is the landlord doesn't receive any payment, and the landlord still has to pay for, let's say, insurance on the property. They still have to pay for property taxes, and all that stuff was not taken care of in the previous stimulus packages. So because of that, they're trying to figure out a way to make it work for everybody. This would be a huge bill. This would be much bigger than a $1,400 stimulus check. This would be even bigger than a $300 or $250 monthly payment for a child tax credit. And this would even be bigger than $300 per week in an unemployment benefit. This is huge. This bill, if it were to pass, and I don't know how much support they're getting at this point, but because this was just proposed on Thursday, but what I can tell you is that as I hear more, I promise I will share more. There's a lot that will happen over the next few weeks, and I promise I will keep you updated on all of it. Now, in other news, the United States did report 49,728 new COVID cases yesterday alone, and also 1,846 deaths. And according to the CDC, the United States vaccinated roughly 2.98 million people yesterday alone. The actual report came in closer to 4 million people, or I think it was a little over 3 million, something like that. But because the way the CDC pulled in their numbers, the data was a little bit off. So if you go from day by day, it was roughly 2.98 million people. This is a new daily world record. We also know that President Biden is currently deploying FEMA to help care for teens and children crossing the border at a record pace. The facilities down at the border are actually overloaded, and many children are staying in cells that were specifically designed for adults. So they're going to go help out with that, and that is something that former President Barack Obama actually did as well. So President Biden is kind of just taking the similar approach, sending FEMA down to help. And we also know that Italy has been ordered to go back on lockdown again, a nationwide lockdown as well, because their COVID situation is worsening. So that's what we know right now. Hopefully you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you guys for watching. Have an incredible rest of your weekend, and I'll see you guys on the next one.